Name association. Now, I am going to give you a sentence, a description, and you throw back to me the first name that comes to mind. And do you know what? If there's a little story to go with it, then please throw it in as well. And the first one is the funniest person in the locker room. And it can be any locker room.
Oh, God. I always liked Kurt Hennig. Kurt Hennig was always good. He was a good ribber, but he's also funny. The things he would come up with and say and that stuff. He always had a lot of energy, and he was just a good person in the locker room.
Yeah, I mean, you need those kind of guys because with the grind and everything.
Yeah,
what percentage of people in the locker room would keep up that energy day after day after day on tour and sort of like never flag?
Oh, there was a lot of guys. I mean, a lot of guys. They you always got to try staying up as much as you can. We all know we're tired, we're beat up, we're sore, everything else and that stuff, but you still got a job to do. So everybody always try staying in good moods all the time. And something, if you had fun the night before, you talk about it and that, and just do whatever you got to do to keep everything going.
Next one is last man standing at the bar.
Haku.
Are we talking? No, we're not talking in a fighting sense. We're talking in a drinking sense.
Oh, drinking?
Yeah.
Oh God.
Don't worry, Haku will be coming up later. Trust me.
Yeah. I would have to put probably Berserker, Johnny Nord.
That's not the first time we've had John Nord's name thrown out.
Yeah,
there as
Johnny could drink, but John. Listen, Johnny was another funny person too. He was humorous. The things he would do and come up with, he was humorous.
Were you a big drinker?
No.
What, like teetotal or?
No, I never really drank. I really didn't care for it.
Did you hang about in the bars or,
Oh yeah, I would hang with the guys. Yeah, because I want to talk to the guys and see the guys. We had that camaraderie that, we always one another and look after one another and that, so, and I'd always show up and say hi and everything else and make sure everything's good. And if I was tired, I'd take off and go do my thing.
Yeah, best way. Absolutely. Smelliest wrestler.
Oh God. The one I would have to say would be Brady Boone, his armpits. Oh my God. Listen, it's not his fault because he would grab you in a headlock and my God. Whew. But I just think it was something that was genetic. Because he showered, he did everything, and I just think it was very just genetic. That's all it was. And some people have that. It's genetics.
Maybe it's his diet or something like that. He's something seeping through his pores.
Yeah, it could be. And also another one was Nikolai Volkov. He ate so much garlic. You could smell it come through his skin. And I love Nikolai, and I had to wrestle him and Boris Zukov for a long time. Wow, that garlic would come right through, especially when he would start wrestling and that sweat would come out. Dang, Nikolai, you're brutal, man. Brutal.
Is it okay with Nikolai? There's a couple of things that I hear. One, he was one of the cheapest men in wrestling, and two, he used to cook in his own hotel room with a hot plate.
Yes, he did. He did everything on his own. That was Nikolai.
What was his signature dish?
I guess I really don't know because I never asked.
Just garlic.
I guess coming from probably he had a lot of garlic. I know that, but I guess coming from Russia, that's just the way it was over there, and he took his same ways over here.
The most dangerous situation you found yourself in a wrestling sense?
Wow. That's tough. Maybe I know when I was in Kansas City, a guy came in to the ring right after we got done wrestling, and you don't know if they got a knife or anything on them and that stuff, And it just so happened my partner at the time was Pork Chop Cash. And he came up and he popped that guy so hard in the ear because I didn't see the guy coming from behind. And he hit him so hard that it broke his eardrum and blood just shot out. So, yeah, that maybe be probably the most because I didn't know about it at the time.
Did you were you ever involved in any riots or did you at least witness any riots in any of the arenas in Mid-Atlantic?
No, but I did overseas one time.
Oh yeah?
Over in where was it? It was South Africa. Down in Durban. We did a show, and of course the champions were Indians. And we did something where the guy that was with me, he used a gimmick to beat their champion. And boy, they started rioting. You had about 10,000 people there. They tore down the fences. They, I mean, everything. They broke all the windows in the locker room we were in. They did everything to try to get into that locker room and get the guy. That was pretty bad. That was
With,
pretty bad.
with that being said, where's the oddest country you've wrestled in? Were you like in like the Lebanon tours and stuff like that in the early 90s?
I went to Beirut one time, and that was brutal.
Mm.
It was horrible. It's it's a different culture and different world over there. Totally different.
Was that the tour where they took your passports?
Yep, yep. They took everything over there.
Tell me about it.
Yep.
Tell me.
Um, well, we went over to work for this one guy, and they grabbed the passports because they didn't want anybody to leave and that, and because they said it was safer for us holding on to them than you guys. And just nothing ever happened. Never got paid. Just a bunch of turmoil on that tour. It was it's something you try to forget, because it was wasn't a fun time.
No.
Wasn't a fun time.
The next question is actually the nicest person in wrestling.
Oh man, probably there'd probably be two of them. That'd probably be Barry and Bill, Axe and Smash and Demolition. Great guys. Great guys.
I'd find that hard to argue with. I interviewed them both last week. So I've seen Fargo and Minnesota Nice. When I spoke to Barry, especially, you can definitely Minnesota Nice.
Oh yeah, very very nice.
I'll skip that one. Most memorable thing that you saw happen on Crockett's aeroplane?
Oh boy. the Probably the most memorable I have is we landed in Charlotte on his private plane, and we were going to get off the plane, and it had snowed. So when we came into the private airport, there was snow on the ground, but there was ice underneath. And we went to stop. The plane did like a 360 real quick because of all the ice underneath. But nothing was happening. So Hawk had been drinking with Flair the whole time. He goes, "All right, everybody, better be careful when you get off the plane, man. I don't want anybody hurting themselves. It's so slippery out there." So we're all getting off one on one. Here comes Hawk. He gets off the plane. He takes one step. Boom. His feet go straight up in the air above his head, lands flat on his back. Okay. And Animal started laughing so hard. He said, "That's the best bump I've ever seen you take in your entire life." He said, "That was incredible. If you could do it in a ring every night, it'd be incredible." So but that was Hawk, man. Hawk was great. Great.
Yeah. Did he ever use those bumps in the matches with you afterwards? Because apparently he loved to sell.
Animal would be the one that would sell. Hawk.
No.
No, it was Animal that sold, right? I think it was Animal that sold most of the time. Hawk really didn't like the bump too much. He kind of be like a spider on you, or an octopus. He kind of wrap around you and that stuff,
I know a later question is going to deal with, basically it's going to be Haku. But with Hawk, how much of a reputation did he have for being a badass back in the day?
Oh yeah, Hawk was tough. Hawk could back everything you could say in that stuff, but most guys got along with Hawk. They understood Hawk and that stuff, and Hawk was just Hawk, man. He did his own thing.
Next question. This is a new one I've never asked before. Most high strung.
Oh God. Most high strung. It would have to be somebody that's very, very really, really into his character, and probably Randy Savage. Probably Macho Man. Because he was very intense all the time. Very intense person. Everything was perfection. And that was Randy, but that's what made Randy so great.
Next one. This is an unfair one, I know. Most talented wrestler that you ever wrestled?
Most talented I ever wrestled. Probably, there's several. Bret Hart, of course. Bret Hitman Hart is just an incredible wrestler. I always said, if you couldn't have a good match with Bret, you shouldn't be in the business. Should not be in the business. Another one, Arn Anderson. Great wrestler. Definitely, those guys are two in the top 10 wrestlers, man. Incredible wrestlers. I would definitely put those two. Definitely those two.
The next one is the most miserable wrestler on the road. Who, just always Eeyore the donkey.
um, let me think. God, that's a hard one to answer because I pretty much got along with everybody in that stuff because I just did my own thing. Um, I really couldn't answer that one right there. I
Okay.
really don't know.
Biggest carny.
God, biggest carny. That's another tough one. I really wouldn't know that one either.
I can move on.
Really?
Okay. Amazingly, the next question is worst abuser of spray tan or baby oil.
Uh, Mike Sharp, easy, easy. He'd bring a gallon of baby oil and he'd just, like I say, he'd just slap it on, and he'd use a lot.
I know,
Mike was
but he's
incredible.
so hairy. Why would you do that
It
when he's
didn't.
so hairy?
It didn't matter. He loved that baby oil. He loved it.
Good for him. Best and worst road agents.
Um, Best ones I liked a lot. I love Chief. Chief was great. Chief was straightforward. Um, Probably the worst one was Tony Gurria. Probably he was just Tony was nice, but he was lazy. You know, Rene Gillet was good.
Mm.
I liked Rene. I liked Jack. He was good. But that'd probably be right. And listen, I like Tony Gurria a lot. I really do. But he was just he was just kind of there.
Mm.
Just there.
Do you remember very briefly when Nick Bockwinkel was an agent?
Yeah, and Nick, and I like Nick a lot. Of course, watching him on AWA growing up, it was kind of special because seeing him, and also here I am, and I'm seeing him in person. That's him in front of me, and actually working with him all these nights.
I used to do a podcast with Don Morocco weekly, and he was always the opposite about Nick Bockwinkel because he still blames him for getting fired in '88. But I'll save that story for another time. Or you can just go onto the YouTube channel, you can find it. I'll give you a few more, and then we'll move on to the sort of like bulk of the rest of the interview. Smoothest worker.
Smoothest would probably be as far as a match, Bret Hart.
Mm.
Bret Hart was, like I say, man, he was a great worker in that, easy matches. He knew how to sell for a big guy. He knew how to work for a big guy, so it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed working with Bret very, very much.
Now for this next one, you can't say yourself, but the biggest ladies, man.
Not me. I had my women, believe me. I had my women in that stuff, but it would have to be well, of course, Rick. Rick's right there.
Mm.
He's on top of there. Probably the tag team of Shawn Michaels, Marty Jannetty.
Oh yeah,
they had a lot of women everywhere. They always did. And when Rick Rude was around, Rick Rude, Rick.
Was it, for just anyone on the card? Was it just so easy? Just they'd be in the hotel rooms, you just pick them off.
Oh yeah, you could just one time was NWA, and if I remember right, I went to one of the guys' rooms. I can't remember who it was, and there were like 10 women in there. And he goes, "Man, just pick one." He says, "Just pick." Hey, boom, you're gone. You pick one, you're gone. It's that easy. I mean, it was that simple back then.
Huh. Hey, the benefits of being on the road. I mean, that's going to help the loneliness a bit.
Yeah, it does. It's it gets lonely, man. You're the same thing, same grind every day.
Mm. We'll give you a couple more. Heaviest smoker.
No. Heaviest smoker. Wow. Ooh. I really didn't hang around anybody that really smoked in that stuff, so I really can't answer that question either.
Loudest spot caller.
Oh God. Maybe Nikolai.
Oh really?
Because he would just say something really loud in the ring and that stuff when he was doing that stuff. It was just Nikolai. Nikolai was a loud talker anyway.
I remember someone telling me, it's like, hey, you could be loud back in the day because the fans were so loud screaming all the time. You could just yell stuff to each other.
Yeah, and the rings weren't mic'd either back then. Now they're all mic'd.
Now, worst injury you ever saw?
God. Probably it was in a TV. If I remember, I think it was Tampa, Florida. The Rockers were working with two guys on TV. and they did there's a big lawsuit after this.
Yeah, I know.
They were doing this one. They were doing this one move with this one guy, and I had heard that he said he could do the move, and I really don't think he knew how to do the move. And of course, he didn't do it right, and his head went down to the mat. He became paralyzed, and they didn't know about it. I think if it was I think it was Marty that climbed to the top rope or Sean, one of them, and they came off the top rope and landed on him after that yet. But they didn't know that he had been hurt like that. That was probably the worst one I ever saw. And then, of course, we knew something was wrong, and it just wasn't a good situation.
Chuck Austin, the guy's name was. Yeah, I remember there was he was a rocker dropper. Yeah, and he was supposed to take it flat on his stomach. He ended up sort of taking it like a DDT.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I say I really don't think he knew how to take it. But of course, a lot of those guys just want to be on TV and they would say they could take it.
The most memorable backstage fight.
Oh boy, in our time there really wasn't many fights backstage. The guys got along pretty well in that stuff. I know there were some, but there's really nothing on my time that I can really talk about back there that I really saw that was really bad. Maybe the only thing I ever saw was Andre and Big John Studd up in Duluth, Minnesota. It was cold as hell that day, and they were doing an angle, and John screwed it up, and he knew he screwed it up, and he got out of that ring. And all I remember is him getting out of that ring. He didn't even grab a shirt. He just grabbed his bag and ran to his car. It was about 15 below zero outside in Duluth, Minnesota, and probably about 40 with the wind chill. He didn't care. He wasn't going to do it. He would just grab his bag and ran, because about 2 minutes later, there comes Andre looking for him. I mean, he wanted to grab John really bad. That's about the biggest thing I could probably say.
What was it about John Studd and Andre? Because they wrestled together for years, like WWF and outside of the WWF. So in my mind, I'm thinking, surely they couldn't have hated each other, or Andre couldn't have hated John that much. But what was it about the two that never got along?
Just I couldn't tell you any more than that. That was just the only thing I ever saw. The two of them went together because John was a huge guy. Andre was the biggest guy I've ever seen in my entire life, by far. So it was just something that they could work together well. But Andre wanted everything to be perfection. He was really into that. And if he didn't, Andre would come after you. He would. Andre, if he liked you, he loved you. If he didn't, run. That's what I will say. Run.
Now, we established beforehand you're 6'4", 6'4.5", around that range. How tall was Andre the Giant?
Oh, God. When I first got there, he was definitely over 7 foot. In the end, I think he was like 7 foot, but he was definitely over 7 foot. Probably 7'2" at that time.
What time? 88, around that time?
88, yep.